If Apple just added these 8 new features to the M3 MacBook Air, it would be unbeatable. Welcome back to the channel. So these 8 features, I think that's right, 8 features. If Apple added these 8 features to the brand new M3 MacBook Air, this laptop would be unbeatable. Everyone would have to buy it. It would be the top selling laptop, hands down, between $1,000 and $1,300, and everybody in the world would be buying this thing. It would be double, tripling in sales. So stay tuned, because I'm going to go through 8 different things, and I'm going to prove to you if they just added these things, this thing would be unstoppable. And you tell me if I'm wrong. Now, before you jump all over me, because I'm going to be going after Apple a little bit here, I've made over 600 Apple videos. I love Apple. I have tons of Apple products. I buy it all the time. But I'm going to call them out on a couple little things here. Now, number one, I know a lot of people don't believe this, but Apple has an evil plan to make as much money as possible. And so does every other company, so it's not that evil, all right? So just understand that they're trying to make money here, and we're trying to get everything we can. But I have a solution here. If they just did this, these 8 things to the MacBook Air, I think they would even make more money, and you're going to hear me out why. All right, for starters, right now Apple only has about 10% of the global share and about 16.1% of the United States market share for these laptops and computers. So they have a lot of room to grow, all right? Now, they're not going to get gaming, a lot of gaming people, although listen later in the video, they're not going to get a lot right now, and they're not going to get some business users and stuff. But even if they have 16.1% of the user base in the United States, I think they could double that easily. And doubling that is going to give them a lot more money than, these little add-ons on the computers that you have to add onto your computer. I think the market share growth is where they're going to make a lot of money, and there's some room there. They're not going to get all of it, of course, because it's a premium product, but they can get some, and I'm going to kind of prove that to you. But you're going to come back and say, well, Apple's got all these tiers set up, so if you don't, if you want something more than the Air, you got to go with the Pro. And I'm saying, no, Apple, that's not the right way to sell these things. I know you have marketing experts out there, but I'm saying on every level, give everybody what they want. So on the MacBook Air, make it as good as possible. You're going to get everybody that wants to spend between $1,000 and $1,300. Everyone in the world is going to buy that computer if it's got everything that they want. And then if they want a better CPU, then they go up to the Pro model. And if they need something even faster, they go up to the Max. But just in the Air's kind of realm, you're going to give them every single thing that they want. And we're going to talk about that. What are the 8 things that are missing? And once you do that, this thing's unbeatable, unstoppable. It's number 1. All right, so let's get into the 8 different features I say they need to add to make it the perfect laptop. And we're going to start, number 1's going to be, the first couple, I think 2 or 3 are going to be the easy ones, all right? So number 1. It's going to basically be ship these things with at least 12 gigs of RAM. Apple, what are you thinking? It's going to cost you $25. A lot of people on Windows, they look at this thing and they're looking at it and they're saying, this thing is what, $1,300? This is the 15-inch. I'm going to spend that much and get 8 gigs of RAM? No. I mean, even if you gave them 12 or 16, we all know on the Apple side that 8 gigs on an Apple works a lot better than 8 gigs on Windows. But still, people just don't understand that, and they're not going to migrate over to this ecosystem. And in that ecosystem, if more people move over, it's going to help us make better, better products overall, because we're going to have more money. So I think just by giving them that alone, just giving them more RAM to start with. Now, we can argue if it's 16 or 12, but I think even 12 would really, would stop a lot of the swap going on. Just give people a perception it's over 10 in their head. We have to get off the 8 just to make things sane again, and a lot of people just hate the fact that it's there. All right, number 2 is going to be an easy one again, and we all talked about this. So if you're going to be shipping this, the same thing. Someone's coming from Windows, they say, hey, I need to get I'm going to get the Air. It's in my price range. Comes with 256 gigs of SSD. And then if you want more, they're going to charge you $200. Instantly, people kind of stand off. So I think just shipping this thing with 512 or 1 terabyte even, ooh, Apple, 1 terabyte. I mean, it's going to cost them $25 maybe or something like that to do something like this. I mean, even at the very least, ship this with 512, make the upgrade from 512 to 1 terabyte like $75. Make it so that people can buy this. Give them what they want. It's not going to cost Apple. It's not going to cost you anything really. A minor amount of money. Don't worry about the tiers. They'll all come later because you're going to sell so many of these if you do this. So the storage overall is the number 2 thing, and it's another easy one. All right, number 3 is easy too, and then we're going to get into the more difficult ones. But again, I want to keep this laptop. If they do all this stuff, they should keep it within about $100 of where it is now, and it'll still sell like hotcakes. So we look at this thing, and on this other side over here, we got the 2 Thunderbolt ports in the MagSafe port over there, right? So that's fine, and we all know that's one of the complications here. And everyone's going to say you got to upgrade to the Pro. I'm saying don't do that. If you're going to buy an Air, just give us what we want. So I want just 1 more port on this side over here, 1 Thunderbolt port. That's it, just in case I need to put a cord on the other side. and I want an SD card reader, whether it's micro or standard, it doesn't matter to me, just throw it in there. I looked it up. I mean, it cost Apple like, just 25 bucks or something to add this. And again, if it has to be just a slightly thicker to accommodate it, just go ahead and do it. At the end of the day, that's all we need. We don't need any other special ports on here. We don't need anything else. We just need one more on this side so I can have a cable go this way and an SD card reader if I ever need it. And that's it. So Apple, give us this. That's the third and easy one. And let's get into some of the hard ones now. All right, number 4, after talking to all these people, I think I figured out number 4. This is a little more difficult for Apple, but it would still be super easy. I mean, we're putting people on Mars and stuff, right? This has got to be easy. Make a computer like this, make it thin, but just don't glue in the battery. Make sure the battery is interchangeable. So you can actually, if the battery starts getting low, you can go ahead and unscrew it out, put a new one in for maybe 50 bucks on Amazon, and be done with it. A lot of people don't buy these things because they're afraid like the battery's gonna go. I mean, new users ask me all the time, like the battery's at this percentage, I'm worried about it. Don't be worried. If they could just replace it for 50 or 75 bucks, they wouldn't be worried about it. But Apple won't do it because they want it to be this thin. Just do this, Apple. Make sure we can get into this system and change a couple minor things, and that's it. And it's gonna make it unbeatable. You'll sell so many you would never have to look back. All right, number 5, and again, I understand Apple probably won't do this, but I know it's possible. So I was watching a video by Luke Manani, and he basically took, I think it was an Air, I believe, or may even been a Pro, but in long story short, he went in and he was looking, he opened up the system on the back, and there's some obviously RAM modules in there and memory modules and SSD modules, but he found the SSD modules in there, all right? And he was able to take them out and put in a bigger SSD. Now he had to unsolder them. They had to do some kind of crazy thing, but they're basically just little chips. If Apple just made this thing with an extra little slot in there and they didn't solder them in, they just snapped them in somehow, then they would allow you to eventually, one day in the future, if you ever ran out of space in this thing, or if the hard drive failed, this is the biggest thing, you could snap another one back in. It would give people peace of mind to buy this thing way more often than they are now. People would end up saying, all right, I need more space in the future. You, even Apple, can sell us the space. Maybe make them proprietary. I don't recommend that, but I know you can. The little hard drives, but you make them, sell them for 75 bucks for each 512 gigabyte or 150 for a terabyte. Make some money in it, I don't care. But if you have this expandable for either failures, that's the biggest thing, because people are afraid of that, or just expanding it because people don't want to spend all this money and move things over just because they ran out of space, it would just sell like hotcakes. So that's the 5th one. Apple, you do this, and I'm telling you, you're going to sell millions of these things, and you just won't even know what to do behind it. You probably won't even care if you sell any Pros at all. All right, the last 3 are going to be unusual, right? And this one doesn't have to do with the laptop. So what is this one? Number 6? So number 6 is going to be Apple. Use all your money, all of your probably like 1 terabyte of savings. I think it's hundreds of billions of dollars you have stashed away. Pay some game developers to start developing games for these things, all right? We know the M3 chip is capable. We know it is. It's just that games aren't really optimized for it. I mean, the Pros are more than the Airs, I understand that, but if you guys can figure out how to get game developers, just pay them a ton of money to begin with. Get them interested in making games, because I don't want to make games for people that there's not a lot of computers to play on. But if you can get them interested in making these things, optimize the games, just so that you can play maybe Fortnite on an Air at 70 frames per second. Just set a goal like that. That's all people want. You're not going to get the hardcore gamers, but you're going to get some gamers from the Windows side coming over because you can play something on this. So Apple, you have to use your money, use your kind of push to start paying off developers to actually develop for these platforms, utilizing the M3 architecture, the GPUs and stuff like that. These things will be fast enough, if not already, soon enough, but get it going, get it moving. You have to make this change and people will be so much happier. All right, number 7, Apple Care. Again, here are people on the Windows side and they're spending $600 on a computer and they can stomach something that breaks because they can fix it. But here on Apple Care costs, you're going to be spending, let's say you spend $1,300 or even $2,500 on a Pro or something, and then Apple says, you want Apple Care, it's another $200 to $300 on top of that cost. It's just crazy amount of money. So if Apple just did this one thing, give everybody 1 year free of Apple Care, and then $50 a year after that for the next 3 years. That's all, $50 a year for the next 3 years, first year free. And then really the last one is just give us the option of all the colors, all right? So why do you keep like space black away from the Air? Why? Just to make people look like they're, they have more money when they go with the Pro? I understand what you're doing. You're kind of making these tiers where you make people jump up. I'm saying don't do that. Just give people everything they want in each tier, everything that they want. If people want to go higher, if the Air CPU, we're talking about the CPU now. If the CPU is not good enough for them, they'll go to the Pro, right? And if that's not good enough, they'll go to the Max or the Ultra. But that's the only kind of determining factor. But besides that, you give them all the ports, you give them the memory, you give them the interchangeable battery, you give them, everything that they're asking for, the colors even. Just give them what they want. And then all of a sudden, you figure out, hey, At the end of the day, you're going to sell a lot more units, and I think overall, it's just a better idea. And the biggest thing too, and this is probably worth all the money of doing this just for the marketing alone, is you're going to quiet all of the Apple people, all of the Apple haters out there, like the Windows users. I get hundreds of comments, every month saying like how much Apple sucks. You're going to get rid of all that. Once you make a system like an M3 Air that has all of those features on it, all of those talking points go away, Apple. They can't come after you any longer. You have the perfect laptop that nothing else can compete with that's out there. No Windows laptop will be able to compete with this because of the performance and even the cost factor. And again, I'm okay if you add $100 more to make all this happen. But sadly, at the end of the day, I know this is not Apple's way. So it's probably never going to happen. But if I was running Apple, this is what I would have done. I would have just done exactly what I said. I think that when you develop a product, you should not develop it for things like they just did with this. Like, let's make the M3 Air have 2 screens, but the M2 Air not have it, because we'll make people jump up. That just makes people angry. Like, now I'm going, why can't they do it in the M2 Air? I'm sure they could. They just don't want to. You don't want to make people angry. You want to make them happy. If you make them happy, they buy more from you. This is the philosophy that I would have if I was a CEO there. And I'm not saying lose money. I would say this would make them more money if you think about it. And again, I'm not in there. I'm not doing everything. I've had a long time in the industry. But I think when you make someone, when you give them a positive experience, for sure, they stay with you. Then they give you more room for error if something was to go wrong later on. But when you actually stiff it to people, you basically are asking for any last cent just for little upgrades. They resent it. And then you kind of have this whole crowd against you and a lot of negative talk and negative, I guess, advertising. And it all adds up. If you had just done the right thing from the beginning, all that stuff would have went away. All right, so post in the comments, be nice. This is more of a fun video, discussion video, but post what you think. Did I miss anything out of those 8 things? Was there anything else that you could add to this thing? It's already got the great screen. I mean, it could have a better screen. It could have some other stuff, but I'm talking like essential stuff that it would need. Post in the comments and we can discuss it. But I think if they did that, I would buy these all day long. I'd recommend to everybody, and everyone in my family would have an Air, and that's all they would really need because it would just be the perfect laptop. We'll talk to everybody soon. I'm losing my voice, and we'll talk to you in a couple days. Peace.